Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our publishing and coaching services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Robert McGee, author of Justifiable Homicide. Robert, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Are you ready to get started?
Yep, all set.
All right. Question number 1. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who's currently writing their book?
That's a tough one because I could give 5 or 10 or 20 pieces of advice. If I had to narrow it down to one, I suppose it would be don't give up, because that's always good. I know when I was starting with my first book, I thought about giving up lots of times, and I'm glad I didn't, because I enjoyed the process. One thing, you should never let people get you down. A lot of people will say, oh, you can't do this, and who do you think you are? But I enjoyed the process a lot, and I found that it was a lot of fun. And I would advise people to write for yourself. Don't try to please other people, because you're not going to be able to do that anyway. Just, don't give up, write for yourself.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
Probably finding a publisher. That's certainly true in fiction. I haven't had any problems doing that in nonfiction, because the publishers have been coming to me because I've established a track record. I've been writing since 1975, and I have some friends, but they're all in nonfiction. I started writing fiction a few years ago, and I found it tough to find a publisher, so I just decided to do it myself on Amazon. It's much easier, and the royalties are higher, and I have to do all my marketing anyway, so I figured I'd try that. And I could use my books as an entry into the big 6 publishers if it ever comes to that. I can show them some product and how it's sold and so forth. That's one way to get a publisher. Start on Amazon and then just show the book to publishers and to agents, and maybe that could lead to something. But as of now, I'm still on Amazon and having a lot of fun doing it. I don't have any pesky editors trying to get me to rewrite everything. So I'm able to keep my integrity and my royalties.
Yeah, that's always a nice benefit. And just having that creative control, you get your royalties, and the main accountability partner you have is yourself, which is always a nice thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that worked well.
Well, Amazon has a few tools that I've used in the past. One thing, if you set the launch date for a couple weeks after you're finished with it, and then just plaster the social media with ads of your own, saying that the book is going to be launched in 2 weeks, but if you buy it today, you get a discount, that kind of thing, then you can build up a lot of sales so that on the launch date, that first day, you get a lot of sales on the first day, and that jumps you up in the ratings, and you'll get more visibility on Amazon. So that's one thing I've used. Another thing is I send emails to my students, because I'm a college professor, and I tell them, by the way, this book is going to launch on such and such a date, and they don't have to buy it as part of the course, because that would be unethical, but some of them will buy it just out of curiosity. And so those are 2 approaches I've used in the past.
Now, in regards to the first strategy that you mentioned, are you talking about setting it up as a pre-order, or you already having the book available, but you're just not officially launching for 2 weeks, and that's when you're trying to build that momentum in between?
Yeah, it would be a pre-order. That way all the sales are triggered on the same day, and the way the Amazon algorithm is set up, if you have a lot of sales on a single day or in a short period of time, it jumps in the rankings, and you get more visibility. And then maybe you can follow that up with some other things.
Excellent. Well, let's talk about your favorite book. So what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
That's a tough question to answer, because I have a lot of favorites. I suppose the favorite book as a budding author, if somebody asked me what one book should I read, I would say read a half a dozen books on how to write a novel if you want to write novels. And I read one by Stephen King, and Hemingway had one. And there are some other authors too, famous authors who wrote about their process. And they all give different advice. Sometimes it's contradictory, and sometimes you find a common thread. One thing that I've read over and over again is they say, if you want to be a writer, you have to write every day and you have to read every day. And that's pretty good advice. I've tried to follow that, but sometimes I can't write on some days because life gets in the way. I just get too busy. But it's a good rule of thumb to follow. And a lot of the books I've read on how to write a novel or what you have to do or the process have all given that same advice. So I suppose if there's only one piece of advice to give, that would be the one to give.
And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
I have a lot of quotes, but a lot of them are from political philosophy, because that's some of my novels have to deal with political philosophy. And in my book, Justifiable Homicide, I even start some chapters with quotes. But my favorite one is really from Hemingway. Someone once asked him, how do you start a new novel? And he says, well, first I start by defrosting the refrigerator, which I think is hilarious, really, because I can relate to that. I can really feel for it, because whenever I want to start a new novel or start a new chapter, a lot of times I start by checking my email 5 or 10 times, or I go to social media or something. I do anything I can. I even try to think of excuses to avoid writing that first word. The first word is the most important one. So it's a Hemingway quote. It's probably my favorite.
Yeah, procrastination is always a challenge, especially when you just want to start the book and you have that blank canvas in front. You're going, okay, where am I going to go with this? You know what? Let me check my email.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or get some cookies, anything, but please not that first word.
Well, Robert, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
Probably my website, robertwmcgee.com. That's MCGEE, robertwmcgee.com. That has a link to my books and a link to my email.
Well, Robert, I want to thank you again for being a guest on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thank you very much, and good luck with your podcast.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how to get your book published with a proven system that works, grab a free copy of my book at getpublishedpodcast.com.